Hey everyone, so after I finished reviewing Getarobo Arc, I got a very interesting request to do the same thing I did in that series with the 2002 Mazinkaiser OVA. And you know what? Screw it. Mazinkaiser is such a wonderful experience that fuck it, I'll watch it again. Let's talk about it. So, fun fact with the Mazinkaiser OVA, it was actually the first Mazinger series I ever saw. So, leading into that, I already knew Mazinger Z existed at that point, and I knew it was a big freaking deal, especially in South America. Now, I had first seen Mazinger Z, I want to say in Super Robot Wars because I played a few of those in my day, and I think I'd already seen Getarobo Armageddon at this point too. So I want to say it was around 2003-ish that I went to one of my first ever anime conventions, which was an early Otakon. And that same year, ADV had licensed and was releasing Mazinkaiser and was making a spectacle of it. Yeah, like, I have this distinct memory of walking onto one of my first ever AnimeCon floors and seeing ADV's booth where they had a giant effing TV and they were like, "Look your fucking eyes over here! The greatest anime ever made! The one and only true sequel to Mazinger Z, Mazinkaiser!" Now, that being said, they aired the first episode on a loop that entire con, so I'm pretty sure at one point I just sat my ass in a chair and watched the whole first episode like I'm doing now. And for fun today, I'm gonna rewatch that episode because people want me to. Anyway, no predictions on this video because I know how this one ends already, but screw it, it's Mazinkaiser. So, Mazinkaiser starts off with a perfect jam project song called Fire Wars. It is a hardcore no fucks given song about how everything is on fire, everyone is fighting, and you gotta do it, man. You gotta get in there. Anyway, it shows how Mazinkaiser is the ultimate evolution of Mazinger Z and Great Mazinger. And on top of that, Koji Kabuto is finally back, and this time he is not fucking around. Zero shit's given to this Koji Kabuto. Now we all know Koji Kabuto, we all love Koji Kabuto, but you gotta understand, going into this OVA, Koji Kabuto has had a very weird career up to this point in time. Now, he starts off as the main character in Mazinger Z, where everything is honky-dory for him, except he has to go through a ton of shit and barely save the world. But then, as great as that is, it gets worse for him in Great Mazinger, where he's suddenly a sidekick getting cucked by Tetsuya Tsurugi, who's bigger than him, stronger than him, smarter than him, a much cooler dude, he dates a strong black woman, he owns a car, and on top of that, he has a better Mazinger than Koji. And his Mazinger can fly and manipulate electricity. And just when you think it can't get any worse for Koji Kabuto, all of a sudden he gets demoted again when Duke Freed descends from outer space in Grendizer and makes Koji his fucking whipping boy, dressing him in the most embarrassing outfit he ever wore in his life and making him worse than a sidekick, seemingly just a goddamn servant / janitor. Now, Mazinkaiser is not that. Mazinkaiser is a hard reset where Koji is once again the top dog in the Photon Research Lab in Japan, the hero among heroes, and he's pissed as hell, and he's not going to let go of that position this time. He is just as important a character as Tetsuya, and Duke Freed is fucking off on another planet somewhere. By the way, I want to point out right now my favorite fucking part of Fire Wars, and that's this line right here, the part where it promises the absolute finest in violence for those who don't fear God. When I was fucking 16 years old, this single line meant so much to me. This is the part that really got me fired up when I first saw the show. I think it was just the conscious realization that they called out their own violence in their own goddamn opening, because you always hear that anime is violent, but so rarely does anime scream that this is it. This is the violent anime you're not supposed to see. And the further religious connotations that they added to it really did make it seem like just for that moment, it really was the finest violence, because when this came out, it was fucking like 2002. There were fucking hypocritical preachers raping kids like all over the country, while at the same time they burned their Pokemon cards and said like fun was illegal. So for me, this one singular moment just sums up the absolute perfection of this series. So on top of that, we get back to Dr. Hell. Dr. Hell has all his classic retarded machine beasts, all his freaky gender-bending generals, and literally all of this cool shit that he's ever had and that's ever existed. So that brings us up to episode 1, the fierce fight, the double Mazingers. So this episode starts off with an ominous, perfect scene of a city getting nuked and you just see flashes of lights, hints of the Kikaiju army approaching. This is perfectly in line with the way the 70s Mazinger would just build up from everything being perfectly normal on an afternoon, summer's day where everything was nice, to all of a sudden everything is totally fucked, we're on fire, holy shit, a super robot army is coming in, closing, trying to kill us, we're all gonna die! So anyway, the army walks out of the fire and is led by the parade leader, Baron Ashura, who's going just full-on ballistic. Now, if you've forgotten who Baron Ashura is is a half-man, half-woman Frankenstein together in a way that somehow makes it work. Anyway, the Kikaiju proceed to level downtown Tokyo, and we get a very nice montage of some classic Kikaiju stretching out their legs after a long winter's break. Everything in the show is visually fucking perfection. Now we get these shots of some of the most popular Kikaiju at this point, Doubless and Garada killing the Japanese army, while Ashura just sits back laughing and gloating and dancing around on a rooftop. But then out of nowhere, a rocket punch crashes in, instantly kills several Kikaiju. It's freaking Mazinger Z, and he is perfect, he is black, he is pissed. Koji Kabuto is here, completely furious at the state of affairs going down. So Mazinger Z just gets down to business as Ashura deploys more Kikaiju, but Mazinger just instantly melts all of them. He uses the Rust Hurricane to actually turn a dude into rust like it's supposed to work. Now Mazinger gets knocked over, but that is not a problem because all of a sudden Great Mazinger shows up, starts shooting off thunder breaks left and right all over the place. Ashura is suddenly horrified. And then Tatsuri is like, yeah, we're heroes. So the double Mazinger brothers start whipping up all this shit. Also, at some point, Boss Borat shows up for a cameo, but he is destroyed in the first second. Aphrodite Ace appears after that with Sayaka, and they get Boss out of a lake where he's drowning. Now, Sayaka and Boss showing up on the scene are instant liabilities for Koji, so he has to divert all his attention to saving them from all the Kikaiju, and the Mazinger brothers use the double breast fire attack to kill this airman-looking motherfucker, while meanwhile Dr. Hell is completely pissed, freaking out that he's being attacked by both Mazingers. So he does the only thing he can do, he releases even more Kikaiju. More Kikaiju come out, Aphrodite Ace gets wrecked, her arms get ripped off. Mazinger Z gets overwhelmed by the large amount of Kikaiju, and they pin him down. The Photon Research Lab, in absolute desperation, tells Koji Kabuto to abandon Mazinger Z or he will die. And everyone agrees with them that this is the plan or Koji is going to die. But Koji is like, fuck that, I'm gonna die with Mazinger. Luckily for him, the Kikaiju actually rips him out of Mazinger Z's head and throws him hell of a far. Also, Great Mazinger gets wrecked too, but somehow that's not as big as a deal because Mazinkaiser. Anyway, Baron Ashura and the Kikaiju capture Mazinger Z since Koji's been extracted from it, and then they fly off. Now, they could have captured Great Mazinger too, but they just settle for wrecking it. And then June shows up at the last moment and saves Tetsuya with the Great Booster. So Great Mazinger gets boosted back to the Photon Lab, and the old men there say they can fix it, but Tetsuya is completely traumatized from being defeated. Now Koji is still missing, and much to my surprise, no one is trying to save him after he's gone thrown hell of a far. So we flip over to the jet powder, which landed somewhere in the mountains, and by all accounts, it's okay, but Koji is missing, although his helmet is still there in the powder. Now, meanwhile, we go back to Dr. Hell living it up in the Mediterranean Sea, where he's being all crazy, and Ashura is there groveling like they lost because they managed to let Great Mazinger escape. Dr. Hell goes into a super crazy mad scientist speech about how he thinks that the ancient Greek gods were actually giant robots, and his proof for this is because he found all these Kikaiju living inside ancient Greek ruins, and this is actually kind of true in various Mazinger mangas, so I think he's actually onto something. Anyway, it ends with Dr. Hell dispatching Baron Ashura and Mazinger Z to destroy the Photon Power Lab. So, meanwhile, pissed off that no one has looked for Koji, Sayaka and Koji's brother decide, fuck it, they're gonna look for him themselves. So, somehow they get Boss to join them too, and they pedal off on their motorcycles because the Photon Lab gets 0 shits. Now, I am absolutely surprised that the Photon Lab gives 0 shits, because literally Koji Kabuto has been nothing but loyal to them, and apparently they do not repay that loyalty back. So no wonder he lost everything and became Duke Free's Sable Boy by the 1970s. But that's another timeline. Anyway, more Kikaiju show up and attack the Photon Lab, so it erects its last defense shield. Tetsuya rushes out in Great Mazinger, but everyone tells him he's gonna get fucking killed because Great Mazinger is still broken and it's all cracked and ugly. So anyway, Ashura instantly breaks down the Photon Lab's photon shield by shooting it with a photon beam from Mazinger Z. So Ashura comes out, and Baron Ashura has completely wrecked up and disfigured Mazinger Z. One of its eyes is out, it's got a bunch of spikes and a bunch of bolts on it, and on top of that, Ashura drew some freaky ass eyes on its chest. Now, Great Mazinger comes out to fight Mazinger Z. This should be a fight that Great Mazinger can take, but Great Mazinger is wrecked, and Mazinger Z has been upgraded by evil powers. So, meanwhile, at the same time, Sayaka and Boss are still lost on the highway, getting no cell phone reception from the lab, and Koji's brother says that the fact no one's answering means that the machine beasts have already killed everyone. Now, meanwhile, evil Mazinger Z and Great Mazinger are fighting, but Great gets really wrecked up by the evil Z, and Ashura is about to declare victory. But just as he's about to declare victory, just as he's about to win, all the Kikaiju around them explode, and Mazinkaiser appeared. And Ashura is dead shocked. Now, Professor Yumi knows that that is Mazinkaiser, and that is intriguing. So, a fucking instrumental of Fire Wars starts playing, and everything starts getting suddenly massively epic. Ashura starts freaking out hard. They start firing off everything they have in Mazinger Z, but nothing fucking works. Mazinkaiser slowly walks up to Mazinger Z and just punches it in the face, instantly downs it. It keeps going, it keeps punching. Mazinger Z is ground into a fucking pulp, utterly, absolutely destroyed. Ashura cannot believe that Mazinger Z is getting absolutely destroyed because Mazinger Z is made of Chogo Kenzet, the strongest material on Earth. So Ashura retreats, like a standard TV bad guy in the 80s, or maybe the 70s in this case. But Mazinger keeps coming, it keeps going insane. It starts to attack the Photon Power Lab. Great Mazinger gets in its way, and Mazinkaiser punch Great in the face, dealing massive critical damage to him. Now Sayaka finally comes out, and she stops Mazinkaiser along with Boss and Koji's brother because they know Koji is inside Mazinkaiser's head. And finally, the last shot of the episode is the sun rising, and as the sun rises, you can see Koji Kabuto crucified inside of Mazinkaiser's head, seemingly unconscious. The end theme of this episode is Tornado by Ichiro Mizuki. Ichiro Mizuki is one of the greatest anime song singers of all time, and he sang all the insert songs for the original Great Mazinger and Mazinger Z TV shows. So they got him to come back and do one more new original song for the show, and that song is Tornado. It is a rugged and meaningful song, and I love this song. Tornado is just a goddamn beautiful song. It is like undeniably a Mazinger Z theme song, since they brought back Mizuki and he does all his usual tropes. But at the same time, Tornado is just so sad and epic, and it's just especially good. So yeah, this episode did literally everything fucking right. It sank its teeth into somehow everything that ever worked about Mazinger Z, everything that was ever good about Mazinger Z, why Mazinger Z worked, and got it working again. On top of that, it brought back both Mazinger Z and Great Mazinger to fight side by side, which is something people got really used to seeing in the Super Robot War games, but it actually never happened in the anime, almost never, I think. So that was really super satisfying. All the Kikaiju in the series are pretty much cannon fodder in the first episode, but the main fight of this episode is Ashura piloting Mazinger Z, which is such a mindfuck for any fans of the series, because that is just something that logistically should not happen. Now, Dr. Hell is right back to where he ought to be. He gives a pretty typical crazy speech about ancient giant Greek robots, which is actually more interesting to me now that I'm a little bit more versed in other Mazinger series, but by and large it's just an explanation for why he has this infinitely respawning giant robot army. Ashura in this episode was very tropey, almost to the point of irregularity considering the bad guys were actually winning in this episode, so Ashura really didn't have to be so groveling and weak, but hey, that's tradition for you. Now, Mazinger also just showing up out of nowhere at the end and being hella mysterious and going berserk, that's tradition too. So that's the first episode of Mazinkaiser. I'm not gonna give this one a rating, but for various reasons, you guys gotta know that this is one of my favorite Mazinger Z anything episodes ever. This episode is just pure perfection. I was Buster Green. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please let me know if you want me to review the other episodes of Mazinkaiser. If this video doesn't get a lot of views, maybe I won't. But let me know, because I will if it does. I still need 320 subscribers, and then I'll be monetized. If you guys can help me get that, I'd appreciate it. Alright, thank you guys. I guess I'm still on a Mazinger kick for a while. Peace out. Bye.